AI just made a move that most investors totally overlooked, and we're kind of catching it here before the crowd. Everyone's chasing a lot of flashy tickers. Big Bear AI has been positioning themselves, though, as an important infrastructure play in AI. And so they got government contracts, TSA ties, and the pipeline for their tech seems to be growing. So we just broke this down in our live session this morning. And in our trading session, we focus on specifically what's going on in the markets, what we can do in AI. If you ever want to join there in StockMates, that means you can trade with me every morning at market open, get into our private community. We've already tracked over 24 millionaires in StockMates. We can get early targets, and also, aside from that, you also get a free t-shirt shipped over to you as a bonus. So if you want to grab that, it's the second link below. While you can get your spot here while it's still available. Rigetti stock too, what a tremendous run today. We just surpassed the 200% profit mark over on Rigetti. So that was tremendous. When we look at Big Bear today, we see it really surge up to $8.50 a share today at one point. So congratulations to people that hung around even when I know things got dire after earnings. We continued to cover it. We did see a lot of reasons why we could see the accumulation hit. Institutions bought this thing up after it fell to that support level, and it never really dropped further than where it dropped on that earnings day. And we can see it continue to run up another 12.5% closing out today. Now they were up more than that at one point. So Big Bear continues to run up to really approaching this previous resistance at $8.50, which we haven't seen them break out of here. You can see that resistance level. And we can actually jump into some of the shorter term timeframes here as you see this trend continue stair stepping up. And then today, breaking out using that previous resistance as a support, now facing that $8.50 support level there, or excuse me, resistance level, which if they break out of, now we're seeing all-time highs, or at least seeing them get up to $10.36 that we saw back in February. So it's awesome to see that they get back up in there. How are you guys doing today? I think we're live, are we not? Pretty sure we got a live session going here. And I know that there was a lot of investors that were looking forward to Big Bear potentially recovering after earnings. There were some reasons why we were looking for it to recover. And so we're going to go over those in this video and why the stock is up, what's going on with Big Bear as it continues to surge another 12%. Redwire was also up about 13.8% today, which is great because we've been covering that one for a bit, and it has made a move today up to $9.23. So Big Bear is at $8.50 at one point today, and currently at $8 a share, and that is some good news for the defense sector. So let's take a look at the near term, and let's talk about these levels as we see it jump up into $8.50. David Carpentinito is here. What's going on, Carpenito? Cabal's here. What's going on? Elvis, what do you think of Lunar and Redwire jumps today? I love LUNR personally, and I like Redwire. But aside from what I love, they do have some reasons that they've been growing. Redwire market cap is much smaller than their total assets. Lunar has had some deals recently in tens of millions of dollars that they've signed over the last few months, but their stock continued down despite securing more deals. So I think both those stocks were due for some push-ups as they are some of our longer term positions. Rise says $10 by end of October for Big Bear. That would be great. We have an average purchase price of about $2.80 on Big Bear, and we continue to hold. Didn't have any short-term trades going with it today, but we were trading over on IONZ, which hasn't really done much for us today. That's okay. But we do see Rigetti continue up for us, crushing that benchmark there of 200%, which is just absolutely amazing. However, the great part about what we're looking at here with Big Bear is that this means most investors that have invested in Big Bear are totally up at this point, as long as they were holding. So Jason, for example, says, I stumbled across BAIG. Maybe it was in a video we are covering, or maybe he just found it on his own. And he bought $12.40 entry price on Big Bear and just sold it at $28.50. So over 2x in a matter of a couple of days or a couple of weeks. Congrats. Johnny says, nice. What's going on, Johnny? I think you got some, don't you have some red wire yourself there, Johnny? And some Big Bear. Hopefully it's a good day for you. Mark says, diamond hands, everybody. Quantum also. Really, it comes down to your strategy, Mark. If you're here for, the long term, of course, you continue to buy, continue to look for those opportunities. And then that's where, patience pays. And we start to see companies like Lunar start to recover. Black Sky jump back up into $22 a share. APLD continuing its run. What's the other big mover that we saw today? Redwire continuing to jump. And so those are space tech plays. Those are AI plays. And we see them continue to build the momentum into today. Johnny says, yes, I have Redwire trying to continue to load up under $10. Nice. So let's jump into some of the reasoning behind here. Jim Jam says, found your channel by YouTube searching Rigetti back around $6. Today, it hit 180% plus. Jim, I'm right there with you, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I think we started covering Rigetti at about $1 a share. We've seen some crazy volatility. We do have a short-term position, though, up about 200% on the right there, as you can see with Rigetti. So I'm right there with you, man. And I don't mean to top your 180%. Oh my gosh. That is tremendous. Anyone making that type of return should be proud. Appreciate you, Jim. Thanks for tuning in. Spinna says, where do you think you see Big Bear in 5 years? I would imagine they're expanded into more infrastructure. So I would imagine if they were, well, there's a lot of uncertainty right now around 5 years from now, but they are operating as if we're 5 years from now, I believe, which is the key to running a business. So 5 years from now, how is technology for a company like Big Bear? Well, they're probably at a lot of ports of entry. They're probably at the Panama Canal, which is where they are. They're probably having some space tech, which they do have a partnership with Redwire. They're probably at most stadiums, which they just partnered with the Washington Commanders. Maybe they're going into stadiums. They're probably at all the airports in the facial scanners, and they're seeing, and they are getting into Denver, LAX, JFK, or what have you. So they're doing it now. It's just a matter of scale, I believe. So that's why we've stuck with them. I know that there's a lot of people that have said, Will, how could you stick with Big Bear after the earnings and they pulled back? And I was like, I don't know. Some people might not have been around when we were holding at $2.80 when we started covering them at $1, and it shot up to $10 and sold all the way back down to $2.36. And we continue. Like this earnings dip here, while it looked super dramatic for us, and we were down, I don't know, 15,000, something like that. I remember talking to my wife, and I started getting all these messages from people, and they were like, I told my wife, I'm getting messages from people, and they're telling me this was the worst experience, that I shouldn't cover stocks. And I was like, but I don't tell people what to buy. I only share like the insights, right? I'm not here to tell you what to buy. But I was telling her, and she said, it's gonna rebound. She said, it's gonna rebound. And I said, well, it seems like based on the market of where they're going with the big, beautiful bill and everything, that it would rebound. And she's like, it's gonna rebound. It's gonna rebound. And don't worry, they're gonna understand that it's all insights. It's not you telling them what to buy. It's just you giving them. And I was like, I appreciate it. And honestly, after that, we have seen a full recovery and more back up to previous highs of what we saw in the high during the summer. And so with that $8 price point reached today, it's a good day in the defense market for anyone invested in defense today. And also, one thing to consider, we're not here to, hype the stock. In fact, at this moment, for a shorter term investment, Big Bear probably not very favorable at this moment. They're way overbought at the moment. RSI is overbought, MACD is overbought, and it's kind of like market open when we open up. And whenever people are tuning in for the first time, they get really skeptical because they're like, "What is this guy talking about?" When and are the people tell me, am I going crazy? I feel like I'm surrounded by a bunch of crazy people because everybody in the chat's going like, keep selling off, keep selling off. And we're bullish, like everybody's like, more red, let's see it. And we're sitting there like waiting, and someone that's brand new to investing is looking at it and they're saying, what have I got myself into? So it's like we look for the red, and that's usually when we're the most excited. So even though we see things now at um, highs now, this is also can be the time when profits get taken, institutions do instill some healthy movement into the stock to get it back on track and sell it down. So it's like it's a different um, way to look at it. However, there is some reasons Big Bear could continue to drive up and maybe even touch highs that we saw back in February of around $10.50, which would still be another, 30 to 50% increase. And when it comes to why we're looking at that potential move, it's probably going to come down to more growth in the Veriscan technology that they're deploying, which is the facial scanners at all the airports. It's probably going to come down to their financials improving. So we've seen the AI tech they're putting out that saves time for TSA and can identify passengers, where they're coming from, where they're going, all those things. But where we could see them really surge is going to be in the potential growth from outside of the airports in places like Panama, where they're doing the U.S. Navy stuff. You could even see there's a securing role in major U.S. Navy exercise that I think was announced today. And when we look at what that means, we're talking about the tech that can essentially scan all of the boats that go in and out of the ports. So that's it's an interesting market, right? It's an interesting place to look at, especially with today. So this is the article from today with Big Bear, BigBear.AI and SMX, which is I believe it is another military focused company to enhance maritime domain awareness for the U.S. Navy Fourth Fleet at Unitas 2025. So, featuring approximately 8,000 personnel and 26 allied partner nations, okay, they're going to orchestrate technologies in support of the U.S. Naval Forces fleets. So this specifically focuses on things like threat detection, counter narcotics, human trafficking, arms smuggling are key concerns. So the AI that Big Bear has developed is great for complex maritime environments, according to the CEO, where illicit trafficking, illegal arms smuggling, all those things need more awareness. They have AI-driven insights that provide operators with enhanced situational awareness and the advantage needed to achieve mission success. And this is actually funny because while we have been covering the Veriscan, and you guys have sent me a bunch of photos on Instagram of like, Will, I'm at this airport. I just got a comment. I don't know who it was. I think it might have been like Marty or someone. Was like, I freaked out at the airport and my wife had to like calm me down because I saw a Big Bear scanner at the airport or something like that, and I was laughing. Um, and someone else made a joke in the comment section where they're like, well, at least you didn't look at it and yell like, man, that's the bomb, because then you probably would have got arrested. So in this instance, we've been talking about the very scan. We see it in the airport. We're flying through the airports. We see it. But what we've been talking about is also the the Panama Canal and how the ARCAS system, which is an AI analytics system for computer vision, pattern of life analysis, risk forecasting, would be good for them to continue to scale. So they just then secure this new partnership. And so outside of the very scan, which is the tech we've seen them deploying at airports, they also have the computer vision. And you guys probably saw the thumbnail of this video where they have like, there's like ships in the background that are getting scanned. That's what Arcus does. It scans the ships and it is able to tell different units and parties and where they're coming in, where they're going in through the ports. So it's a tremendously powerful system, and most likely going to impact not just the Panama Canal but other maritime focused operations. So when we're looking at the recent surge to $8 a share today, we have a resistance level at $8.50. Nearest support is actually right here at about $7.75. I know that it almost looks like the nearest support is down there around $6.50, but we did get the breakout today and then kind of a validation of this previous resistance. Okay, so kind of a validation of this previous resistance. And now nearest support is around $7.75 to $7.80. So that's what we're going to watch. Long-term gains, again, we've seen them start to surge up into that $10 range before. Last time they made it to $10.36. So far this year, they were just at $1 a share. We started covering sometime last year, about a month after year to date. And we now see them at $8 a share. So tremendous day for Big Bear. Congratulations, everybody. I see some good comments. Let's see. After Dark says, congrats to the BBAI holders, got 1.5K shares. Congratulations. Savor the Skies, debating to sell BBAI and wait for a pullback to buy in. That's an interesting perspective. I mean, it really depends on your goals. Like, if you don't see long-term potential in the company, then definitely that's what you'd want to do. If you do see long-term potential, then maybe differentiate between how much you hold long-term and how much that you hold short term, or differentiate and say, okay, I'm going to sell some but keep some long term. That's how I do it. I usually only trade stock short term that we would hold or are already holding long term. So it's really up to you, but I do think having a plan is, yeah, get the plan together and execute it, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Wrap for Lunch says, I was thinking that too. What if it keeps going up? What if is always a question. And yeah, I mean, right now, from a technical perspective, $7.75 is the support. But if we see it continue up, then, that's just part of the game. I'm not selling any of my long-term personally. I continue to hold it. I've held it up to 10 and back down to 2. And that's just how we do it. But the short term, yeah, if we see it validate 775, we start to see maybe a sell-off market open tomorrow, and then starting to see a recovery. Potentially we trade it at market open. We've been trading it at market open and throughout a few days here and there, or a few weeks, in this whole trend that we've seen develop over the last 2 weeks. Solo Slick says, yo, Will, get some hoodies made for your YouTube channel. Yeah, let's come up with an idea on that. Go ahead and send me a message on Instagram. It's the third link in the description. Or like, we can design something and send it over, and let's do some hoodies or something. That sounds awesome. We have Stockmate hoodies that we send out for sure. And we send out free t-shirts all the time in Stockmate. So you get a free t-shirt in Stockmate, but we don't advertise like apparel very much. I guess we should. That would be cool. I think it'd be fun. especially with winter coming up, like hoodies could be the vibe, right? Alexandria Brandon says, should we buy at $8? Oh man, Alexandria, that's a big question. And I would advise you to realize that in this channel, when you come back here next time, if you tune into a live session, realize that we're here to help you formulate a plan that suits your goals, but not any agenda or what I think, but just to give you all the insights of what's going on with the stock, what it's doing, where it's at, what's likely, what's not likely, and then you can come up with a plan on your own to buy. But ultimately, you'll never hear me say buy this, buy now. But I will tell you, I have long-term positions. Any short-term trades, I'm not entering right now, just so you know. I don't know if that's helpful, but that would answer your question. Never will there be a you should do this on the channel. I'll tell you that. Mostly folders of a bit of everything. I'm at $7.10, small position, but maybe a little bigger than I'd like to be, says mostly folders. I'd like to get a little more before I trim. Think 9 is on the table soon, question mark. Well, again, reassessing the plan is really going to help you. So like when you say, I'd like to get a little more before I trim, assess that. What does it mean to get a little bit more before I trim? Does it mean you think 9 is on the table? Is it you got to get to 9? And also, what's the risk look like? How are you okay if this thing drops to $5? Are you okay holding it? If not, okay, great time to lock in profits. You know, it's you got to really think about why and the plan that you can execute rather than what you're told to buy and sell based on what everybody talks about. I'll tell you that will help you a lot. Gary Jacobs made $198 today on Big Bear. Congratulations, Gary. Adam Hill says, holy shit, I got an APLD under $5 because I watched you. You're awesome. Keep it up. I think that might be, I think I haven't really cussed on stream before, but I kind of did just reading your comment. You're awesome, he says. I appreciate it, man. You know, APLD is data set. Like, it made so much sense, didn't it? Like, they're building the data centers. Wouldn't it make sense? I feel like it would. Akil says, I got into Redwire. Congrats, Akil. Was that yesterday? I think I saw your message yesterday. Was that in yesterday? Because they went up 13% today. Redwire is what Adam Hill says he's excited about, and he's up over 200% on BigBear.AI. Congrats, Adam. Really happy to hear that you're doing well on Big Bear. And yeah, Redwire is an interesting one. I do think, you know, from a team perspective, an employee perspective, I haven't seen any tremendous stewardship. Even when I got to go talk with the company, there wasn't something that stood out and I said, this person's leading this company. Oh, this company's going to win. It wasn't like that. It was more like, let's look at all the financials and we see them get some deals. And then we see their financials as a space company look really favorable given that their market cap is currently lower than their total assets that they have. And that's usually a good sign. And Benjamin Graham usually looks at that when he's investing. So the financial side looks good on Redwire. I think there's just a few things we still got to watch closely. Like they've got some new contracts, they got some new deals, but let's see execution and if there's more renewals in those contracts as they're a relatively new company. But I personally hold some Redwire as well, and we do cover it quite often. Tyler Hopfinger just joined, and what did he say at the price target for BBAI? Yeah, I mean, based on what we see right now, previous resistance from this trend we've been following for a few weeks is now acting as a support. So 775 is the nearest support level. Resistance levels, we see $8.50. It just got rejected. That's also a previous resistance we've seen them get rejected in back in July, which they weren't able to make it up to. So the current shorter term outlook looks quite overbought in the near term and the short term, but it could continue up. We're looking at basically support and resistance levels hovering between 775, which is short-term trade most likely. If I was in that, that's where I would manage my risk. And then a taller bullish target around $8.50 again. So it's kind of holding there. I think it's going to move big at market open tomorrow, and I'm not sure which direction. But if it dips, we might enter a shorter term trade if it also finds a support after its dip. But if it goes up, we'll just continue to hold long term. Patty Odor says, have you had a chance to look at EVTL? I have. We looked at that one a while ago, and I'm pretty sure, Patty, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I think they had more liabilities than they did assets. Let me just double check that I'm remembering this right. They did. So, Patty, the only reason we don't cover that one is just because look at the total assets, 87 million. Total liabilities, 263 million. That's usually a precursor to bankruptcy. So I wouldn't personally cover the stock, even though they're like, doing like aerial space and stuff like that. Just too many times in my experience, I've seen companies go under when they got more liabilities than assets. So I wouldn't personally touch it and cover it for that sake. Raise Mania. I'm holding BigBear.AI shares and leaps today. I took profits on my short-term call options. Hey, that's awesome. Congratulations. Let's go. Akil says, Redwire was up 13%. Do you see another upside? Personally, yeah, I mean, Redwire has its move today. And we've been actually watching this level here in this greater downtrend. We actually were trading this week. And we actually outlined yesterday this support level. And we were looking for a bounce. And it ended up bouncing there at 775. And now it's looking to break out of that resistance with the new resistance at $9 potentially acting as a support, which would give it the momentum to start trending upward. So great move today. We'll just have to see how it continues into tomorrow. Solo Slick. Awesome. Good. Hey, good to see you guys. And thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Johnny says DVLT, interesting one, starting to research. Decent balance sheet. That's awesome, Johnny. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Let me write it down and we could go over it either in our live session in Stockmate tomorrow with you or something else. Appreciate you all. Let's go, Big Bear, says AJ Trades. Yeah, it's always good. Also urge caution, when you see it up that high, have a plan together as we kind of outlined earlier. Always have a plan. Doesn't matter long-term, short-term. It will put you in the right spot if you have a plan. At least you'll know where you're going. Awesome, guys. Appreciate you all. Hopefully I earned your thumbs up. Smash that like button if we did. If you would like to join us in our daily live trading sessions, we just released the earnings for this week and the targets for the week. So we got Micron Technology with some targets, and then we have Accenture and some other. It's not super loud in the earnings this week. And also, we do get up early if you want to join our live sessions. It's at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. But if you do want to join us there, live trading is happening in 16 hours, and you get a free t-shirt when you join, along with the community and all the learning resources for investing in AI, quantum, tech, space, and defense, all those good markets that we're into right now. So again, it's the second link below. You get a free t-shirt, and we have it open for lifetime access right now. So feel free to take a look. All right, guys, appreciate you all. Thanks so much. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.